came onto my show, and I read lines from The Godfather with him.
Wow.
Okay.
You did, really?
Yeah, I did. And it was one of the greatest moments of my entire career. I walk out the hallway, and there's Robert Duvall sitting there, and I knew he was coming in. And he's just a guy in a chair, no entourage. And I'm like, Mr. Duvall? He's like, yeah. I go, I'm the guy from Paul Castronovo from the show. Come on in. And I go, hey, let's do some lines of The Godfather. He goes, look, I understand The Godfather is like your whole life. I think it was one role in 72 films I've done. So I'm like, all right, well, I have the script here. Would you mind?
Well, he loves the smell of napalm in the morning, too. You can't forget that.
So good.
Yeah.
Well,
Smells like victory.
Well, that is definitely solid. And the only thing I have to counter that,
Okay.
as a young kid, 1969, I was very tiny. I did watch TV partially to see Mario Andretti win the Indianapolis 500 that year.
Oh, boy.
Who won the World Series in 69?
I have no idea.
Oh,
69?
Yeah, he
New
won
York
the
Mets.
I saw Mario, and he won the Daytona 500
gotta
that
believe.
year.
Were you born in Brooklyn?
I was born in North Miami, North
You're
Shore
not
Hospital.
Italian. Okay, here's another one. Speaking of The Godfather, Talia Shire, who played Connie in The
he's loaded.
Godfather,
Yep.
she was in my studio she was in town for the Fort Lauderdale Film Festival. I got her to read lines from The Godfather, and she said, "You're a terrific actor," and I saved that clip. James Caan, I interviewed James Caan, Sonny Corleone, which is also the name of my dog, Sonny Corleone. I interviewed Ray
He's
Liotta.
got notes. He's reading his notes.
I'm not done. Al Pacino did a one-person show at the Hard Rock Live, and I got to ask him a question. And
A movie with Al Pacino one time.
okay, now you got to tell me the story.
Really?
Yeah.
Just what is it?
Do
Any
tell.
given Sunday. Just
She's
any,
eating dog, too.
just any given Sunday. It's no big deal.
You were in any given Sunday?
Just a little extra.
Okay. I was in what was the movie they shot at the Orange Bowl years ago? Black Sunday. With Robert.
With the Heidelberg thing?
Yeah,
or
no,
not
the
Hindenburg?
Goodyear blimp.
The Zeppelin? Yeah.
The Goodyear blimp crashed into the Orange Bowl. There was bombs in it, and Robert Shaw was the star of the movie. And I was in high school, and we went down. They took us down there to be extras in the stands. True story. All right, I'm not done. I'm the spokesperson for Doris Italian Market. I have a pizza named after me at Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza.
True.
I own a pizza oven. I own a pair of Ferragamo
Do you
shoes.
want to ding after every one of these, or are you asking?
Don't
you
worry
got to
about
start dinging. No, start dinging. Ding.
I have my own Castronovo Vineyards wine for 15 years.
That's a big one.
I grow basil and tomatoes. There's the ding. That's hysterical. When I was a kid,
you got to start over now that we have the dings.
and my parents would take us to the beach. My mom would make meatball sandwiches.
Wow.
I mean, I did a culinary walking tour of Florence. This summer in Chicago, I went to Italy, and I spent 2 nights in Rome and 6 nights in Sorrento this summer. When my son was 7, and I said, "Hey, you want to go to Disney World?" He said, "Can't we go to Italy again?" I'm just saying, I don't know how you could possibly claim more Italiano.
Well, Dennis, unless you have something to counter him, I'm just going to award this to him.
I won't
I
have
don't know
any.
what I get.
The only thing I have for him is who made more Saturday nights growing up at Hialeah Speedway. I might win this one at this table.
I had an opportunity to race in a demolition.
At Hialeah?
Yeah, and
You're lucky you turned that away.
I turned it
Yeah.
down. I was scared. I didn't want to get killed. But yeah, whatever happened to the Speedway?
That was, believe it or not, and this is a guest that we were going to have with us today who you love, and the reason I was going to bring him here, Rob the Swede Green.
Oh, the big Swede,
my
yeah.
show producer, and he also does documentaries in addition to my show.
So he's the one that did the thing with
Hialeah
Harry?
Speedway documentary.
Okay, did he do that with Harry?
Well, Harry's dad used to race at Hialeah, and
Right.
they ran some pictures of Harry's dad.
Okay.
So in documentaries for WLRN Public Television, they're looking for historic South Florida events. So I said, here's one, Rob. It's a gold mine. It was the biggest thing in South Florida growing up. From 1969 as a little tiny kid to 1979 or the early 80s, my grandfather took me there every single Saturday night, Hialeah Speedway. And it had closed down. I forgot the year. It ran for 50-some years.
Yeah.
And in a day, there was no bigger place than Hialeah Speedway. It was unbelievable.
So you win the award for who's the bigger Floridian? Not even close. Because I didn't get here until 71.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We
Where are you
got
from
beat.
originally?
I was born.
Italy?
I'm born in Brooklyn, but might as well have been.
You were born in Brooklyn?
I
Yeah.
was. Brooklyn Hospital. Same hospital delivered by the same doctor that delivered my mother.
Wow.
How old school Italian.
Really?
Yeah, true.
Did he have
Wow.
like a meatball sub?
You know what's funny, though? My father, and taking us back to fishing.
Smoking a cigarette, drinking a vino.
Yeah.
You know?
Did they put you in a little white box and with the little
I was
twine?
I was conceived in the wife beater
Like the bakery?
undershirt, and my father was wearing boxer shorts and black socks.
Really?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. Really.
That's how he remembers it.
I wasn't
Thank you,
there.
my
I was
dear.
conceived
You
in
could have
it.
just said that and won the award based on that one point.
Yes.
But taking it back to fishing, I growing up, I never fished in New York ever. Never even held.
And it's amazing because they have some really good fishing up there.
Right, but my father grew up in in Little Italy, Brooklyn, that area, and we moved to Long Island, and we were all we cared about was New York Mets baseball, and we moved to Florida, and we moved to Lantana, and then we moved right to Lake Worth, and in Lake Osborne Estates, and I don't know why I said I need a fishing pole because we lived by the lake,
Mhm.
and I my mom bought me a little Zebco. And I went to the lake with a hook and bread, and I came back with 46 brim.
Isn't that great?
And my mother was like, "What are these things? What do we do with them?" I go, "I don't know. They're fish. I just caught them all." And they were like, "How did you catch a fish? How did you even know how to catch a fish?" And I really don't know. No one ever showed me. But after that, my grandfather, that's how I learned how to fish. He took me on drift boat, the Beelove, and we began going every weekend. And I remember and you're an artist, right?
I am.
The color of the water, and watching the ballyhoo drift into
Yeah.
into that color, and I never saw anything like it. And to bring a bonito, I'll never forget it as long as
You fall in love with that color.
I think you do.
You really do. I mean, I remember we grew up down, spending our summers down in Marathon, right out of Vaca Cut, and Captain Hook's Marina and everything. That's where we and just running out of there, and just you run over that reef first before you really get to the fishing grounds, and just the color of that reef is what.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it's just that's what really made me fall in love with it all. And that and the color of the little mahi fins that come up, and
It's colors like you.
Yeah.
Where else do you see colors like that?
It's magical stuff. I mean, if I'm talking right now, and anybody out there in listener or viewer land is hearing what we're saying, you have not been down to the Keys to experience this.
Yeah.
It is really just a magical sight when you run over that reef for the first time and you're on your way out to deeper water, because that turquoise green or blue or whatever that vibrant,
Yeah.
it's really
Well, and it's a different series of colors.
tough to
because
replicate,
When
to
you're
be
on
honest
when you're
with
on the sand, like in Hawks Channel, it's a green, and then you get to that white.
Oh, you get that green glow.
Oh,
yeah, that's
and
the
then
best.
you hit when you get to the drop off and it gets to that rich blue, and then
Yeah.
you hit the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream color is nothing like that.
Nothing like it.
But let me go back. So you grew up in North Miami.
Yes.
And I think about this all the time. When I first began my fishing experience, I must have been 11, 12, 13, 14. And we had a neighbor who said, "We're going to go fishing in the Intercoastal in Lake Worth." And then we went to Palm Beach, over where Mar-a-Lago is. And I remember this like it was yesterday. Anchored up, there was 1,000 boats in the Intercoastal anchored at the time. And what were we catching?
You were probably catching either bluefish or Spanish mackerel.
Spanish mackerel.
Right.
Stacked up on live shrimp.
That's when he used to come in. And I remember at North Miami growing up, that was like a tradition. You would follow the Miami Herald. Jim Hardy was the writer back then.
Mhm.
And again, you remember, I was a young kid. My dad was a fishing fanatic. And you would read, okay, Spanish mackerel invade Biscayne Bay. And then that was your cue. You would go to the bait and tackle shop, load up on live shrimp, load up on those little drone spoons, go out there, get a chum bag. And this is before you had to run the government cut to get them. This was out of haul over. You throw the anchor and you chum, and you would just limit out on Spanish mackerel. It was amazing. It was a tradition back then. Then the gill nets came in and wiped them
That's
all
what
out.
happened. Yep.
And then and the bait fish, and then because the bait fish were all gone, the pelagics would just keep rocketing through because there was really nothing to hold them there to feed. And fortunately, we had that net ban, and things started coming back. And down Government Cutway, you still see some decent runs at times of the Spanish coming in. And I'm not
they
so
do
sure
come in
about
there?
haulover. Yeah, but haulover used to be a mainstay. You never had to run the Government Cut, the Spanish.
They would come into Haulover?
Oh, in a haulover, and you would come in right through the inlet, and where it would bend the intercoastal
Yeah.
waterway, you could anchor up off the intercoastal waterway based on the tide. You chum into there, and those Spanish mackerel will show up on those real cold days, and
Yeah.
free line and live shrimp, or you throw in that drone spoon and just catch all you want. That was tradition back, when we were little kids.
Well, we didn't. It was a lot. Obviously, we didn't know a lot. I mean, growing up in Lake Worth, they had the Lake Worth Shark Tournament, and I remember the fishermen would go out, and you would come in, and they would weigh the fish at the at the band shell,
Yep.
and they would hang just thousands and thousands of dead sharks. And I can't believe what we learned over the years. I mean, there are people today that would say we'd love to see that again, because I know
Yeah, that's another
that's a
story in
different
itself.
conversation.
Yeah.
Also, I was a bellhop at the Breakers Hotel in Palm Beach for a bunch of years.
Really?
Yeah. That was right after. Thank you. Dropped right after. We didn't need a ding for that. But that was, what I think.
Well,
it
to
was
challenge
good.
you on that one, I worked
Certainly
at the
needed a
valet
ding for
parking
that one.
concession at the Port of Call restaurant in North Miami, which was the fancy seafood restaurant
man.
at the time.
But valet parkers and bellhops made a fortune.
Yes, we did.
All
Did.
cash. That's how I bought my weed back in the day. Now, but I remember as a bellhop, we had very wealthy guests staying at the Breakers Hotel. The fishing captains would come in, the local charter fleet, and they'd be like, "Hey, if you have any customers that want to go fishing,
you get your cut on that, sure."
And what they didn't give us money, they gave us smoked sailfish.
Huh.
Now, you wouldn't dream of killing a sailfish today. I mean,
No.
Actually, I had one die a few years ago.
Well, you can harvest one per.
You can,
one per-
but I would. Why would
It's like-
you?
yeah, unless you like and plan on smoking them like that.
Well,
That's a
my son
different
and I
story.
tail wrapped one, and it broke our hearts. It really did. To see a dead sailfish come in, and I'm like, son, we're gonna smoke it. It's gonna be okay. It died. We've caught 1 million, and we've released 1 million. We both felt terrible about it. Cleaning it was like a slaughterhouse. There's a lot of blood and everything. It was like we cleaned it on the boat, and but it was wonderful. I mean, it's really. But I remember the captains would come in about every month. They'd give us a little chunk of smoked sailfish, and I always thought that may be the best smoked fish there is. And they still smoke marlin. I mean, occasionally
They
you
do.
see it out there.
And it's good. My first blue marlin I ever caught was in 1984. I had my 25-foot mako to Chub Cay, Bahamas. Got my first blue. Trying so hard to get it, and we boated. It was a 221-pounder. So I killed it, of course, and not to have that go to waste, I had it mounted, and I had all the meat taken off of that fish and sent it to the smokehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we had smoked fish for I can't tell you
like a
how
year.
long
Yeah, that's
after
a big
that.
fish.
Yeah, a long
But it was
time.
incredible. And I
Yeah.
did save some of it. So let me just try this on a grill. And it wasn't that great on a grill. It was on the tough side. It's sort of like a Michelin tire or something like that. But the smoke part of it was great. And I did the same thing. My first white marlin I ever caught. I brought that in because you're first, and I had that mounted. And we did the smoke white marlin. I kept a piece of that to throw in the grill, and that didn't taste anywhere near even as good as that blue
Really?
marlin. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I tried it in different ways, but smoked,
Do
you
you
could go ahead
know-
and do your sneaker, and it's going to taste good.
You mentioned Chubb, and
Chub Cay.
I'm going to say this: I had not been there ever
Really?
until this spring, and I went over with the Papas Pilar team
Okay.
on that beautiful Valhalla. And
That's right. You fished with Mike too on that, right? Didn't you?
Yeah, Mike and
Yeah.
Scott Walker and Steve Groth and all the guys, and I am going back. That is
Nice, huh?
The whole deal with that, and I fished over there several times, is you have to look at April, May, maybe that first part of June,
Yeah.
and it dries up, but you want to have that strong east wind for a few days or southeast wind that blows blue water into that pocket and the bait. If you have those strong conditions, you know that the fishing is going to be good in that pocket. You want to time it where you're in April and in May, where those pelagics start to move through, and they'll follow that blue water and that bait in that pocket. And when we had caught that blue, my first one, back in '84 with my mako, that was one of 3 blues that we caught, and we had released the other 2.
Yeah, we didn't
and I
get
boated
one.
that one.
I didn't get the 3 days I was
But
there.
the dolphin gets so solid,
Yeah,
you can't get away from it.
We
Times.
caught a million dolphin.
Right.
We grouper trolled and caught a 50-pound black,
Yep.
which was fun. But the day I left, they caught a 70-pound wahoo. So yeah.
Speaking of Wahoo, we are actually going to be going over to Chubb. When is it? November next year, right? Our good friend Andy Moyes is putting on a Wahoo tournament.
Oh, for the Wahoo
Okay.
tournament,
Yeah,
yes.
and it's November 2023, and it's going to be really a
Well,
big Wahoo tournament.
They've really done a
Yeah.
beautiful job.
I'm going to be doing the artwork for it and everything, and yeah, it's going to be a big event.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah, excited.
The facility is fantastic. I mean, the hotel, the rooms, the houses on the marina. The only thing that was weird is, have you been in the cleaning room there, the cleaning station?
Yes, we've been there.
Woo,
yeah,
boy,
it makes you want to go in there and get the job done fast and get out of there.
It's a tad gamey, let's just say.
Oh, really?
But it's nice to have an air-conditioned cleaning room, but
but
there's cats from other islands trying to get to there. The scent is
and the flies still find a way to get in there.
I
too.
know, it's just bizarre. But there's
It's
not.
nice what they've done to the place.
Oh
Other
man,
than
yeah,
the cleaning room.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I will have to throw this in since we're talking a little bit about the Bahamas. And I've had the good fortune of on my boat fishing so many of those islands over my career with Saltwater Sportsman and a TV show,
Hmm.
and also aboard big sport fishing boats. And one of my favorites is Green Turtle in the Abacos
Yeah.
Green Turtle Club. We've
I love
had
it there.
such
Yep.
amazingly good luck. And you look at the bottom, northeast of Green Turtle, where that open Atlantic just comes in, and that crazy tight bottom, 25, 35-mile run from Green Turtle. When you get the right conditions and you get the current in there, and again, you go there in April and May, it's amazing. We shot a show this past May there that'll air part of our new season coming up in January, and we got white marlin, sailfish, wahoo, a bunch of big dolphin, and the only thing that we did not actually get to release were blue marlin, but we had 2 of them hooked up and fighting them, and then the hooks pulled on them. But it was just amazing.
How is the they had Irma go through Green Turtle?
Green
okay?
Turtle, where Green Turtle had the advantage.
Well, that would be Dorian, I think, right? Irma would.
No,
Yeah,
Dorian was
Dorian.
big.
Dorian,
Yeah,
it sat on top
sorry,
of the
sorry,
Abacos.
yeah, sorry,
no.
correct that.
Listen, they all blend.
They got
I'm old.
do,
I'm
they
an
do.
old guy.
they
No,
got
they do
rattled
blend.
a little bit, and but they have a lot of money behind that club, and they were the first ones to come back with the marina and then the actual property. And we were there, as I mentioned, in May, and you look at that whole property, it's like nothing ever happened. The same bar we went walking with all the dollars everywhere.
Good.
The restaurant, it's like nothing ever. They got that.
Now,
so
but right
back in shape.
across the little bay there, the Jolly Roger, there that got crushed, right?
I'm not so sure about that one. I know on the far eastern or the far end of the Abacos, they got really
Yeah.
demolished out.
Well, I mean, like
that
right
way.
there across.
You're talking about the Bluff House, aren't
Bluff
you?
House,
Bluff
yeah.
House, yeah.
Gone, right?
I don't know. I've
Oh.
not checked up. I stayed there early in my career a couple times in saltwater sports and bone fishing, but I don't know if that.
Yeah, I do want to take this opportunity to segue a little bit.
Yeah,
I know
sure.
we don't want to go deep into this because Lord knows that we were just inundated with it over the past few days with the hurricane talk,
Oh.
right? Because we just experienced Hurricane Ian devastating our Gulf Coast friends. You're talking about Hurricane Dorian, which was devastating in the relief efforts and everything that we did here to help them recover. And we talked about the shirt that we created for that. And I want to bring this up because I want to do at least a little bit of promotion about that.
No, you
on
should.
the
Yeah,
show here
man.
today. We raised about $40,000 in the first week of doing our shirt promotion for Hurricane Dorian. We have a shirt out right now, a Stronger Together version shirt for the Gulf Coast community to raise funds for them. We released it today on our recording day, and that's just in a few days that this is going to go live. So we're in a little bit of a delay if you're listening to this right now. That if you want to go to connectedbywater.com and you search the Hurricane Ian relief shirt, and we have a shirt. You can purchase it. 100% of the proceeds donation goes to relief efforts for Hurricane Dorian. I want to also offer our condolences to people who have lost a lot of things out there, lost people, lost homes, properties, and just had to just deal with that in general. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just want to go out. I just wanted to just at least say our piece on that.
What was it? Was it Charlie that crushed Cape
Charlie.
Coral?
It did, and that was such a
Yeah.
tiny storm.
That was a
and-
condensed
and
four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, like you said, Dennis, I have to compliment you for rolling your sleeves up and getting that shirt out so fast. And
You just feel like you got to do something.
it,
I worked from home yesterday, and I watched the Weather Channel all day, along with Paul's little
Sure.
thing he did on the video, which was spot on. But when you're watching it like that, and we didn't get affected over here, like not nearly as they
No, nothing.
not like they did. And when you're watching that, it's just you feel like you got to do something, right?
Well, you do.
Yeah.
And if it's within our power to raise money and do something, and it's tough to sit by the sidelines
it's
and
We're,
watch the game.
devastating, depressing, the
all
whole
of it,
bit.
yeah,
and
because
it's
it's a wobble. I mean, it could have easily been us.
It was aiming at us
Sure.
early.
Yep.
We could have been in that situation today. And, what you're doing is you're rallying everybody within our immediate fishing community to help everyone who was really affected over there that needs the help. And that just as easily could have been us, where somebody in some other part of Florida or the country would rally to help us. So,
Right.
it's, we're all one state. We're all really one people. We have our disagreements across the board. Some like freshwater fishing, some like saltwater, offshore, inshore. But when it all comes down,
We are all connected by water.
Yes.
Nice little
So-
segue there. That's true.
And this is a connected by water moment, and that's what I'm saying. This is really what
Yep.
we thrive for. This is what we're all about. We're all about bringing the community and
Yeah, I
all
mean,
sides
you
together
gotta-
under
you-
one umbrella.
Think about the entire industry, the entire fishing industry in Cape Coral. What's the Sanibel? That all those charter boats.
Fort
those,
Myers.
Fort
Fort
Myers.
Charlotte,
those,
Fort Myers,
those boats
yeah,
are all gone.
Northport.
There's no
Yeah.
boats.
So we're and then I know it's just a hardship, and then
When Irma hit the Keys, I mean, they just took the boats and they piled them into
Unreal.
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then we were going to see the same stuff once the footage begins coming.
and
in.
I just think what happened is you get all the warnings and this and that, but until you actually experience one, and going back to the Florida Keys, so many of those captains and so many people there know what a hurricane does. And I just think since they've not even been really hammered, I mean, I know Wilma
Yeah.
had come through, but maybe they realize, okay, well, that wasn't so bad, that you tend to forget really how bad one of these crazy storms could be, and you think, well, it's no big
Wilma
deal.
was
Well,
bad enough.
that
yeah.
was bad enough.
And then you look at this one, which is a whole other animal and
Another
entirely,
animal. Yep.
and that's what happens. It's just it's
Well,
speechless.
people should do their part. I mean, if you got extra money, don't go out to dinner this week. Donate it. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a million ways to. I know our show is, and our company, iHeart, we're gearing up. We have a lot of radio friends from all the way up and down the West Coast that are going to be affected by this. So we're going to do our part. And the American Red Cross is also not a terrible. They've done a lot, and they make it easy. You can just text on your phone and donate it $5-10 if you can get to. And we'll get to canned goods and we'll get to all that clothing, whatever they need. But it's just going to be immediate.
Yeah, I think Bouncer had a decent thing where he said, what you could also do over there with those captains, if they have a boat that they could run if theirs was really demolished, or if they could fix their boat, is go ahead, send them a big deposit for the following season. I want these days, and at least get them fluid enough to where they could start trying
That's
to
a
get
great
themselves
idea.
back on track.
That's a great idea. Yeah, there's things that can be done.
Can I?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I? We're Bahamas, and I
Yes.
didn't want to lose this thought. We're doing a broadcast in a few weeks in the Bahamas.
Yes.
From I think Nassau.
Okay.
I've never ever had a good fishing experience in Nassau.
No,
You got
and
to run out the
I could.
Highburn or something.
What's that?
You got to run across.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I
you
was going
gotta-
to ask you. Is
you
there a
gotta
charter?
travel.
Is there a charter boat or somebody that does
I've got
quality?
a lot of viewers will email me and ask me, who would you recommend we're going to Nassau for family vacation?
Yeah.
And I fished there way, way, way back 3 times, and the fishing so close in is not good. You catch some little tiny undersized groupers and this and that. You have to find somebody, and I'm sure somebody exists there that does this, but I'm not aware of that person, that could run across to Andros.
Oh, yeah.
Or run the 35 miles to Chubb. Nassau is 35 miles away from Chubb in that pocket.
Oh, that's not far.
So if you knew somebody over there that had
How far is Highburn? Because you got all the wahoo out there. and
yeah, I'm not
stuff.
sure about the distance on Highburn, but I know 35 from Chubb to Nassau, if you had somebody in those fast center consoles that ran out of Nassau, that could move out of Nassau
Yeah.
and hit these areas fast, you would catch fish.
You know who I bet you would know?
Who?
Who I bet you would know?
You got him on the phone.
Bouncer Smith.
Is he
I
there?
bet you
Oh,
he'd know.
Bouncer
Let's
would
give him
There
a
he
call.
goes.
Let's give him a call.
Wait,
Let's ask him.
You can connect the phone to.
Yes, he does.
Let's do one of these
He's the
things.
one who
Oh,
threw- he's the one who threw the Greek flag on you.
Here's your.
Let's see here. Hey, Bouncer, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing
Buddy.
pretty good. We're
Hey,
hanging out
Bouncer.
with my buddies Paul and George here on the podcast.
Before I forget, Paul and George and you are all given a hearty welcome by Captain Dennis Forgione.
We call him the
I was on
fabulous
the phone with
Forgione.
him all afternoon shooting the breeze.
He's
You're
a
kidding
fabulous
me.
Forgione. We call him. I nicknamed him
Yeah.
the fabulous Forgione.
Nice.
Listen, before there was Bouncer on the Paul Castronovo show, there
It's
was
fabulous Forgione.
there was fishing with Forgione. Yeah,
right.
how is my
Yeah,
Italian
but just keep the
fishing?
record straight, Dennis.
Yeah.
Paul asked me if I would go on the show, and I said I'd love to. And he said, "Are you still on with Mike Granary?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, that probably won't work." And I said, "Well, this is my good friend Dennis Forgione. Maybe he could go on your show." So that's how Dennis got on there to start with, just keeping the record straight.
All right, I had one question I wanted to ask you about Dennis, Bouncer. If you're honest
All
enough,
right.
if you're honest enough to answer it, isn't Dennis Forgione Greek?
No, would you stop?
No, the only Greek Italian I know is Paul
There
Castronovo.
you
Now,
go.
where the hell does this come from?
Paul,
I'm just going to let this
you and
ride.
young Ron had your DNA tested a million years ago.
Yeah.
And the results came back that you were a Greek descendant.
Okay, so that's a flat out lie, and again,
Denial.
no, because the Ancestry.com upgraded everything, and they sent us. I had like 2% Greek. I am 100% Sicilian, buddy.
Hey, Dennis.
Yeah.
Can you get a cheek swab from Paul?
Oh my God! I'm going to give him some of my DNA. I have to go to the bathroom. I'll wipe. Hey, Bouncer, we were just talking about you. I'm glad we had you call in. We were I have to go to Nassau. I have to go. I'm going to do a broadcast. And is there a quality fishing opportunity anywhere near Nassau, or a charter guy that can get me to Chubb or Andros?
My honest answer is there was a Go Fast boat out of Nassau that would fish the Autec buoys all the time. And somebody asked me about that close to a year ago, and I tried to track down an answer. But a good friend of mine, Terry Guthrie, services a charter boat out of Atlantis, a fleet of charter boats. And I'll see if they're any good. If they are, I'll get back to you right away.
Because if not, I'm going to be sitting around. I'm sitting at the pool, drinking and gambling every day, which I'm very good at. But I'd rather fish.
Bouncer and eating meatball sandwiches too, apparently.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, buddy.
Why don't you hire some young kid if it's not at college, or unless you have a kid that goes to college? Why don't you hire some young kid to run your boat to Nassau, and then you can take your boat and fish Chubb, and then run back to Nassau and tell the kid to wash the boat.
Have you experienced fuel cost recently? I don't know if you know. I don't have the TV show that pays for my gas like my buddy Poveromo over here, my German friend Poveromo.
Well, then better. Why don't you get George to bring his boat?
Now we're talking. Let's do a show.
Let him entertain you up at Hole in the Wall.
All over the years, I've chartered boats in Nassau, and I've gotten depressed over it because they pull out the cut and then they drag baits, old frozen.
And they do very good at catching barracudas.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I caught like 8 barracudas, and I'm like, I can do this at home. Actually, no, they're more barracudas there. So, all right, I'm gonna look into that, and I'll wait for.
And Bouncer, if I'm not mistaken, the guy that you were talking about that Go Fast boat, did he not own or work at a tackle shop in Nassau?
I don't know where he came from. I only know that when we were there, he would show up.
That's the Bahamas. Bouncer.
And he was coming from Nassau, and everybody knew he was a charter boat.
I have a bone.
While you guys have been talking, I've completely solved it.
Okay.
George, you take Harry to the Bahamas.
Yes.
And you take Carl to the Bahamas. And you take lady guides from the west coast of the Bahamas. I think it's time that you met Paul Castronovo in Freeport. Not Freeport, but
Nassau.
Paradise Island.
Yep.
At Atlantis. Picked him up and took him fishing at Hole in the Wall for a couple of days, back and forth and back and forth.
Show. Be a great show.
And you can get the show sponsored by Connected by Water.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of players in that. Yes, but
Hey, don't I get the fish too?
Hey, Dennis, we wanted to get you involved. Wait, by the way, Dennis, before I forget, 2 things.
Yes.
How big do the hurricane shirts come?
4X is the largest.
You're 2X now.
Save me one.
Okay.
And the second part I want to mention to all of your listeners, if you want your contribution to the hurricane, go directly to somebody that you know or would like to know. Contact one of these guides from Southwest Florida, or it's allowed to be a guy in Myrtle Beach in a couple of days. And it might even be a guy in Jacksonville tonight. But anyway, one of these guys has been pummeled by this hurricane, and contact these guys that you know or would like to fish with, and book them. Make a reservation for this winter, and then send them a large deposit.
Yeah, that's really nice.
That's a great idea.
Brilliant
Bouncer.
idea.
'Cause
Brilliant
now
idea.
you
Yeah.
can put cash in their pocket that they really need. And if you decide to use the trip this winter, then you'll have gotten your money back in spades. And if you decide you can't make it, it'll be a nice contribution to a well-deserving, any small business that's been devastated. That you might have business, it might be a pool service that services your pool in Southwest Florida, for all I know.
You buy gift
But if you know
certificates.
somebody's been hurt, that's a really great way to get directly to that person and not offend those who feel like, gee, I can't take that from my customers as a charity. But they can certainly take it as a reservation for coming time.
Very good points. And I had brought that, and I gave you full credit, Bouncer, earlier in this broadcast. We were talking about that and things that we could do. And I brought up what you had just mentioned now, which is definitely a brilliant idea for the extreme fishing-oriented community, or broaden it, like you said, to, pool services or whatever. So you're spot on with that one.
Bouncer, your new book, I'm Not Done Yet, it bothers me because you retired from fishing. You retired from doing the fishing report on my show, on my radio show, yet...
No, you fired me, just for the rest of you guys. Paul fired me.
You moved to Atlanta, but you're still very active in the fishing community. I love RJ Boyle, but I think I'm going to fire him and bring you back.
I'm ready anytime you want.
All right, buddy. That's good.
I mean, how could you not have
wandering fisherman?
How could you not have Bouncer Smith on a South Florida radio show and dealing with radio specifics? I'm sure I'll get myself in trouble on this one.
Yeah.
Hate mail. They're really the big name in FM radio in South Florida has been and still is Paul Castronovo.
100%.
And you look at charter boat captains, and I say this a bunch, charter boat captains out of Miami, there is nobody in the league of Bouncer Smith that could do everything from mastering sea trout in Biscayne Bay to groupers to tarpon to snook to the reef to the offshore to daytime sword fishing. He is in a league of his own. So if you put these
and
two
saving
together,
drunk guys from the bank,
saving drunk guys from
And
all
then
over
it's
pier.
getting
Right.
4X tops.
What's
My
that?
head is growing.
What?
I'm getting a fat head here real quick.
I'll never forget the time I had you on the air during lobster mini season, and you go, "Hey, watch out for that coconut!" And it wasn't a coconut; it was a human who lost. They lost their boat, and Bouncer rescued him while he was on the air with us in the middle of our show. We have a long history.
I remember that well. Yep.
You also taught. You've taught You're more of a father to my kid than I was. I mean, you really.
Oh, give me a break.
You really taught my son.
You saw my comment about your picture a couple months ago. You and your son with, I think it was a big kingfish or something.
I
Might have been a wahoo, but anyway.
Hey, Bouncer,
guys,
did you see Paul's show yesterday that he did on Instagram?
No, I didn't.
He did the weather report. You got to go check it out.
I did an impression of Jim.
Really?
I did an impression of Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
On the Paul Castronovo
Did
show.
you shave your head?
No, I wore the hoodie just like Jim.
What about the baseball helmet?
I did not. I looked for one. That's a new look this year. The baseball
yeah, it's a new
helmet.
thing.
And next year will be the full face Bell helmet, the racing NASCAR style.
I will tell you that there was a scene. I was watching him most of the day. I call it weather porn, and you can't turn it away when you're wondering, is it going to come over here and what's going to happen? And he's out there, and there's a giant tree limb hits him. I don't know if you guys saw this. The guy at the desk is like, "Hey, Cantori, get your ass in here, man! This is ridiculous." I mean,
no, I underestimated that one.
Yeah.
You see the one where the guy flew in from the side?
No.
One of the grips or whatever. Like actually got blown into like the scene.
Oh, I didn't see
and then
that.
Tried to like walk back against the wind out of the scene.
Bouncer,
yeah, kind of hilarious.
Wow.
George and I were talking before the podcast started back during the rumors that started during Hurricane Andrew, and we were cracking up about, if you recall, you were here, the guy who blew over in a hurricane
from Bimini.
From Bimini, yeah, and he landed on the top of the Dayland Mall.
Do you remember that, Bouncer? He was an
I
exterminator.
missed that one, I think.
He was an exterminator, supposedly, that was wearing this big giant outfit because he was spraying these hazardous chemicals. And during the storm, of course, and he got lifted up, and that suit filled up with air, and he got blown all the way over. Like you said, that was everywhere on the news back then. You don't remember that?
This is before.
No, I missed that one.
I believe this was the beginning of fake news. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could have been.
It was the first instance of fake news. Oh, Bouncer, miss you, man.
Hey, Bouncer.
Sir.
You coming down here soon for Flibs?
Did you get my text today? We got to do that thing with Jack Hargavy about Bonefish and Tarpon Trust.
Yep, absolutely.
I'll send you some dates before the boat show for that. That would be best for me.
All right, good. Well, that'd
be a really great show. It's a great cause. But I will be down there about October 15th to the 30th, and then I'll be back on the 5th for an undetermined amount of time. And then I got to come back down there on the 12th of December. So
okay.
Well, I hope I get to see you. You don't ever call me, but I would like to dine with you, fish with you, hang out with you. I know the mullet run has probably started, so let's get some.
The mullet run's almost over.
Oh, I haven't seen them yet. I haven't seen a big run in my
Well,
backyard.
No, the mullet were solid in St. Augustine. 2 days ago. So they'll
be running this way.
North of you.
Yeah, so they're almost here.
Well, the hurricane, it'll blow us down. Yeah.
Well, Bouncer, I have something I got to ask you to help clarify a memory thing here. And I remember, humorously, we still laugh about this.
Hold on a minute, Dennis. Are you ready for this? I'm going to fix George's memory.
Good. Oh, no. See, he loves that Silent Night bit from the Chicago seminar.
Did George just throw his headset off?
I did. I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm going home. But way back when you and I, we did that Bouncer Smith tarpon tactics video, okay?
Yep.
And we were doing all the different ways of catching tarpon, and I laughed.
Yep.
And I know it's true, but it didn't work for us. I remember you saying, the fastest, easiest way to catch a tarpon would be to get a fresh kingfish or a dolphin, and you tie off one of the pilings in front of the haul-over charter fleet, and you soak it on the bottom, and it's the quickest way to catch tarpon. You and I were there for like 4 days straight before we got a bite. And if you remember, we had the fishing kite out. I think we even had a live mullet out, and a jet ski came through, and I thought for sure we're going to snag the jet ski person, and I had to reel that mullet over his head and drop it behind, and they're all looking at this flying mullet. But what I need help with is we did hook a tarpon, and I think we had a break free to chase it, but one of my dock line stayed hung up at the piling, and it broke. And you had gone back a number of days later, took the remaining piece of that rope off, and gave it to me as a souvenir, which is hanging up in my closet at home. How did I break that rope?
We probably cut it.
Maybe that was it to get on that tarpon.
My favorite part about that part of the show was, for those who weren't there, George and I are tied up to a piling at Watson Island.
Oh, that one.
One of the problems with dead baiting for tarpon was playing keep away with the pelicans.
Oh, yep,
and
I know where we're going here.
A sightseeing boat, a small sightseeing boat, brand I won't mention at this point because they were good friends of mine, the company was. A sightseeing boat went by, and the guy saw George catching a pelican, and he called the Coast Guard and said we were fishing for pelicans.
Yeah, true story.
On the March 6th,
oh, God.
Tied off to the Bouncer's Dusky in big letters on both boats of the names of the boats. And he reported us to the Coast Guard.
Yep.
And the Coast Guard came running around the corner, and Kevin snatched up his camera, and the first thing the Coast said was, "Put that camera down." And when we told him what had happened, he took off after that sightseeing boat, and he chewed that guy up.
Oh,
yes, he
great.
did. I remember we had accidentally hooked a pelican fishing for tarpon, and we're trying to reel the pelican in to do the humane thing and cradle it and get the hook out and do everything we could do without harming it. And they only saw the fighting process.
Did you have
and
cameras rolling for this or no?
well, we did, yeah.
Yeah.
It was so. But the good thing about it all, Bouncer, for the memory on that is, I just want to let you know that King Sailfish Mounts did a beautiful Pelican replica that's hanging in my office. I'm joking. No, it did not.
I'm glad to hear that, because Doug is a great guy.
Hey,
I got to tell one more Pelican story
Here we go.
so that people will be aware of how interesting life can be. George, you probably remember Bill McDonald.
How could I forget, Bill? How could I
was
forget
in
him?
that cover shot,
That's correct.
but Bill McDonald and I were at the haulover boat ramp, and there was a pelican there with a hook and a leader hanging from his bill. And we tried to tease him over with a fish, and we couldn't get a hold of him. So I got out the 12-foot cast net, and I'm firing up to throw the net. And the game warden says, if you throw that net, it's $100 fine. And Bill McDonald says, throw the net.
Yeah, $100.
And I threw the net and caught the pelican. And then when the guy saw what we were doing, he realized that he was speaking out of place, and we didn't have to pay $100 fine. But
Hey,
Well,
It
I got
was
well
another
before
great
I turn to
Pelican
Paul,
story
I've got
anyway. I
one
got
final
nothing.
question here. I want to ask you, Bouncer, real quick, and it's only for personal satisfaction relating to Bill McDonald, because I do remember him. And wasn't he a member? There was this club in North Miami. It was off 125th Street and on the Biscayne River Canal. Was it the BPOE?
Elks Club or whatever it was, or
Elks Club or
Moose Lodge,
Lions
one
Club
or the other.
or Bluegill Club? One of those clubs from back in
Spearmint
the
Rhino? No.
Yes, he was a member.
Salagal.
day. I don't
Bill
know if I saw
McDonald was a member of any place that he could get a drink.
I like this guy. I don't know him, but I like him. Yeah.
Hey, Bouncer, before you go, I got a question for you.
What made you think I was going to leave?
Yeah. He's having a good
Well,
time.
my arm's getting tired.
He's
Hold the phone up to the
retired. He
mic.
has nothing to do. This is the highlight of his day.
So I need you to render the final verdict here. Who's more Italian,
Go ahead.
Paul or George?
Oh, would you stop?
What happened?
He didn't hear my argument. You want me to pull out my notes
No,
again?
no, put those
no,
away.
he knows you both. Who's more Italian, Paul or George?
Oh, there's no doubt about it, George. I'm sorry, but Paul is a definite D.
He got it.
Italiano.
Hey, I conceded to
Ding.
Paul.
Mostly because I have more chefs and maitre d's phone numbers in my phone than George does.
Hey, a Bouncer, all I had.
But Forgione said he's more Italian than either one of you.
Well, that's
Oh,
another battle.
Paul.
That'll be
Yeah.
the next one there. But
Yeah, well, he makes it to the next bracket then.
Oh, that's great.
the only
Hey,
that Bouncer, the only thing I had to counter Paul's 27 points that he brought up earlier was, as a young kid, in 1969, I watched Mario Andretti win the Indy 500 that year.
that
Hey,
doesn't count.
Dennis, if you want a really good discussion for Paul and George, now that they brought up who had the most maitre d's on their phone, you got to get Paul to tell you about being the guest of a club owner or something in Costa Rica, where the guy
Oh.
said everything's on me.
It's great.
That's what Paul
Greatest.
did to him.
There was a TV show called Wanna Go Fishing,
I remember that.
owned by Chris Fisher, the guy from O-Search.
Okay.
And they asked me to go and be a part of one of their episodes. And they took us to Los Sueños in Costa Rica. And I remember, and you know how you do your show, George, and afterwards you guys shoot the interstitials where you say, well, we were out today, we didn't get any bites or whatever. And I was sitting there on the dock, and this guy walks up and he says, "Are you Mike Golick from ESPN?" Now the show was hosted by ESPN, and there was all these, and I was a lot heavier, and there was ESPN logos everywhere. And I said, "Why? Of course I am," because I'm drinking Papa's Pilar. Who knew? And the guy says, "Well, I just want you to know, I'm just a big fan, and I own an Italian restaurant here in Los Sueños, and anything you want. You come by tonight, and it's all on me." I go, "What do you mean anything you want? You're going to buy me dinner because I'm Mike Golick?" He goes, "Of course, man. You've given me years of fun." So I go, "Well, I got 2 or 3, 4 or 5 people." He goes, "Bring them all in." I go, "When you say anything, you mean?" I go, "What about a nice bottle of Farniente, which is like a $200 bottle of wine?" He goes, "I got 10 of them." So I tell my crew, I go, "Hey, a dinner's on me. I'm Mike Golick from ESPN." So we go into this Italian restaurant, and we order everything. I mean, and I'm crushing this guy with the wine, and we're going to town. It must have been $1,000 bill. And we thank everybody. I take pictures. I sign autographs. I'm Mike Golick.
You
And
signing autographs?
I did it all.
Oh,
yeah,
you egged it on.
And then about a month later, I get a call from Chris Fisher.
Oh,
You MFer. I just had to write a check for $1,200 or whatever to deal with. I guess the guy looked at the kid, saw me on TV. Like, that's not Mike Golick. He's an idiot. That's not my fault. But Chris and I are good friends, so we laughed about that. By the way, last summer, Bouncer, I went on OSearch on their white shark expedition, and in New Hampshire, and I spent a day on their research vessel trying to catch a great white, and it was fascinating. We didn't get a bite, but watching this operation, they've caught and tagged lots of them. I don't know if you're familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
with that
he
operation,
had the big platform on the side of the
I
boat.
remember his captain's name.
Oh.
I'm drawing a blank, but he
Captain-
was the nicest guy.
Captain-
Chris was really nice as well.
Captain Brett McBride.
Yeah, Brett. Right.
Brett, great people.
Yeah, that's it,
Yep. And Jody,
Really, really nice
Captain
people.
Jody Watworth, I think, was his captain for a long time. But Brett McBride's
Well, Brett was there, and then Jody was there, I think, and Brett, or maybe Brett took some time off, but I understand Brett's back on there now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's funny because they're running the big boat, and then Brett is running a contender, and so they're running two operations. So they got the contender offshore, and then they got you're drifting boats behind you. So I was like sitting there, okay, what do we do? They had meatball sandwiches on board. They
Go with the meatball sandwiches. There you go.
And I said, he goes, well, you guys.
We got to name this episode "Meatball Sandwich."
That's perfect.
He
You're
listen,
right.
as a fisherman, I'm like, if we don't catch a great white,
Either that or meathead Gus.
if we don't catch a great white, what am I going to do in this boat all day? I'm
Eat a
going to
meatball sub.
well, that account, and we drank, but it turns out you can catch. I fished all day for mackerel and whiting and all whatever they catch up there in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful day. But so I'm going to do it one of these days. I'm going to get a great white with those guys because it's really fascinating. Now here's another thing I did up north that you guys will appreciate it because I truly believe that the greatest fishermen on the planet live for, I would say, Fort Pierce to Key West. I mean, that's probably.
Oh, that's an open discussion
Well,
on this show all the time.
Of
We
course,
talk
I'm
about
voting
that
for
all
you
the
on
time.
that because I always
Yeah.
said,
We have very strong arguments for that.
Well,
and I'll segue with this one here because I side with Paul on this, but then again, the other contingent that could run with us is Jersey. And I'm saying because I'm going to dial in more. I always said the best offshore trawlers
oh yeah.
are from what you just said, the southern Florida, Florida Keys to the Bahamas. They're the best. But you look at Jersey and the passion, because I've been there forever and ever and ever with seminars and shows and fishing for saltwater sportsmen. They have the same kind of passion that we do in South Florida. And when they get going, they get dialed in with the yellowfins. It's a different trolling strategy, different spread of baits. But the passion and the knowledge they have up there would really compete with what our serious trollers have here. And I will say that down here, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for the ones that do a lot of trolling still, is trolling is becoming a lost art. People now are so less small
It's all about
attention
live
spans.
bait.
They got to
Live bait,
run.
yeah,
They got to
yeah.
run and gun, drop live baits here.
That's a good point.
They don't have the patience anymore. But a well-placed trolling spread, if you know what you're looking for, edge of the Gulf Stream, any water surface temperature breaks, structures, and you stick it out in a likely area, trolling can produce a number of different species out there. It's still a very productive deal. But I'm going to agree with you.
But this is why I brought it up,
Yeah.
because my son and I have learned a lot from you and Bouncer over the years, and we took what we know, and we have a house in Maine, and we learned how to striper fish over the last 15 years, and we've gotten pretty damn good at it. So my son's like, hey, let's bring the kites up. I'm like, sure. Why? So we set up inshore. Bouncer, you'll love it. It was a windy day. And we anchored up in a spot that we love to fish for stripers. And we had a live well full of these tinker mackerel. They're the most beautiful little bait. And we got the kites. We had double kites. We had 6 lines out. Boats were coming by taking pictures of us. They're like, what are you all doing up there? What are you doing? What you got the kites going? And they've never seen anything like it. Now, we did not get a bite. And it's funny because we were catching stripers left and right, drifting the baits. But the kite didn't work.
It's applications. It'll work just about every species.
Casco Bay, Maine.
In Maine.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, the truth of the matter is if Paul had been fishing those kites over the rocks along the shoreline in some place where he couldn't even go with his boat, there was a good chance they would have got stripers.
You just got spanked.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
No, I'm
you're
not
right.
saying I
No, you're right.
wrong place on the wrong day. Because
No, you're
I'm
right.
very confident what Paul did would work under the right circumstances.
Well, we know we actually we agree that he and I both have had this conversation. Like we got to go back to there's a spot off an offshore spot that we fish for stripers that I think that's difficult to get to with the rocks. But if we put the baits over those rocks, we're going to do it next summer. I definitely want to. I'd love to.
No doubt.
I'd love to have you guys all come up because it is
that'd be
really
great.
Well, just think about
unique.
this too. All the uses of the fishing kite, and I don't freshwater fish that much. I always say I know enough about freshwater fishing to be a danger to myself, but I like playing with it because it's so different in saltwater, and you try to apply what you know with fish species and habits compared to largemouth. If you had live shiners, the native big live shiners, and you could not get into certain areas, you could get a kite if the wind direction happened to be right and drop a live shiner in over a hole between the mats and let that shiner sit in the top. Why would that not catch a bass?
It's all about the presentation. I mean, that's got to work.
I mean, you
well,
would think.
Giving credit where credit's due, in the like 1970, Chris Blum worked on the Sea Bob at the Castaways docks, and he bought a freshwater tackle shop on Hollandale Beach Boulevard, and his wife ran the store, and he ran bass charters, much like Steve Cantner as a land captain. And he put 2 rod holders on the front bumper of his truck, and he put his big wild shiners in the back of the truck, and he'd drive to a canal where the wind was blowing straight across the canal or nearly straight across the canal, and he would fly a kite across the canal.
Well, think about
and
it.
fish
Wow.
wild shiners against the other shoreline and mohawked the big largemouth.
Well, there you
day
go.
after day after
See, there you
day.
go. Why would that not work? It's already
It would
proven
have to
going
work.
way back.
It would have to work. It would
Yeah,
have to work.
yeah, I'm assuming the balloon would work as well, right?
Or from a surf.
Yeah.
So surf
You have
anglers
minimal line in the water.
Yeah.
You're presenting the hook from the
too.
top.
What about a surf angler? You get that front coming in northwest winds or whatever, and you put that kite up and get that way out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 1,000%.
I mean,
you don't
they're-
see any
The-
surf guys doing kites for the
trick
beach.
that I
You don't. You
saw-
should. That's going to be
Yeah.
no different. Yeah. You get it past the initial break.
The trick that I saw with the kite up north was a guy turned me on to it. I did not develop it, but a guy was surf fishing on undesirable winds, which are blowing from shore out. Makes it much harder to catch fish surf casting because the fish actually move into the breaking water and move offshore when it's calm. But this guy was launching a kite up on the sand dunes, and he ran a line through the kite clip, screwed down tight, and then tied a swivel to the end of the line. And he had 2 rods and reels. One was through the clip and down to the swivel, and one was from the truck to the swivel. And he would fly the kite way offshore, and the one rod would wind the lure offshore going through the kite clip. And then the other rod, he'd put the other one on free spool, put the clicker on, would wind the plug back towards shore, and then he'd reverse them. The one that he had been winding would go on clicker, free spool, and the other would wind the plug back out, and he could work back and forth offshore there. And when he'd get a fish, he'd wind it in on the straight in rod and then pull it back out with the other rod. And that's how he was kite fishing from the beach
As long
up
as
in
you can,
Montauk.
Unbelievable.
yeah, as long as you can keep the kite stationary, you should be fine, right? If the kite
fly
goes
the
left to
kite
right,
off
then
on
you're
top
kind
of
of
the
screwed, right?
dune.
Yeah, but if you can keep that kite straight out without it moving from left to right, you should be okay.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. He had great success with it.
Yeah, nice. Hey, bouncer.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today.
always good,
Thanks for
bouncer.
inviting me.
I
No,
love
I'm
it.
I mean,
thrilled
it's
to be
really
in
been
the
great. This has really
company.
been great. Yeah, thank you very much. For
I miss
taking
your
the call.
voice, buddy. I miss your personality, and we all do down here in South Florida. So get the hell out of Georgia, where the University of Georgia is, and come back to the state of Florida, where the Gators are.
Get
and the
back on
Caves.
Paul-
I'll
Hey,
be
get-
there in 15 days.
We'll
All
go
right.
see you in a couple of weeks.
Get-
right?
Bye,
Bouncer,
bouncer.
How about them Dolphins?
Yeah.
Hey, we
wow,
got
what a game.
We got a
they
game
put
tonight.
we
on.
got one tonight at this recording. We've won so far. We have not lost yet.
Right.
We-
right. Exactly. We don't know what's going to happen, but my prediction. Let's see if it holds up. Because once this airs, we'll see. I think we're going to win 28 to
Is
16.
Is Tua healthy? Is he?
He's playing tonight.
He is playing.
Yeah.
They've confirmed it.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, they confirmed that earlier this
I
afternoon. I think
love our head coach,
Waddle's
man.
okay. Mike McDaniel's
Mike McDaniel
the best,
is
isn't
the
he?
shit, as they say.
Yeah.
He is fantastic.
100%.
Well, you lost me because I'm not embarrassed to admit I'm not a football
How is
fan.
that possible?
I grew up with stock cars. You talk about Bobby Brack, Dickie Anderson, Gary Ballou, those guys that dominated the Highland East. Bouncer would know
Dick
this.
Anderson played for the 1972 undefeated
This is a
Dolphins.
different Dick
All right,
Anderson.
well, I didn't know that.
Hey, Bouncer, before we let you go, Bouncer, how big was Highland East Speedway in its day? You would remember.
Oh my God, was that ever a place to go?
There you go.
Oh, what fun was it? And just the other day, I had my sister's grandson in the car, and I revealed to him that I had a Dodge Dart 383 before on the floor. I went down.
He used to drag race.
Miami
Bouncer.
Hollywood Sportatorium
Wow.
drag strip.
Out in the Moroso, yeah, definitely.
Bouncer used to drag
Yeah.
race.
Yeah, I used to go out there too.
Bouncer
Yep.
used to drag race?
Yes, he did. You didn't know that?
Oh yeah, 4 on the floor.
He had a Dodge
Bouncer.
Dart.
Wow.
I got picked up from school every day. My good buddy Jimmy Bennett, who picked me up to go to Gibbons every morning. Right, they had a '69 Camaro. Now his daughter works for me now. Right, Lorelei.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
and she's
Is that-
you know
is that
Lorelei.
that-
You know Lorelei, right?
I was going to say the beautiful, super intelligent,
100%.
scholarship winning.
That's her.
Young
That's
lady?
the one. That's the one. So her father used to
Huge.
pick me up every morning. 69 Camaro. We used to take that thing out to Moroso all the time. Ran a 13.8 1/4 mile.
Don't forget to
That's
save me a
fast back
4X
then.
shirt. Everybody, if you're listening,
Yeah.
You're not a
Dennis
4X
Friel,
anymore. You
Connected
lost
by
weight.
Water has hurricane relief fund T-shirts that are beautiful.
Thank you, Bouncer. Thank you.
You guys
Thank you
are
for
the
that.
three best fishing media people I know, and 3 great fishermen besides.
Make sure that one makes the little edit cut that we do.
We might open with that one.
Hold on. We got a song for you.
He's demonetizing my YouTube
Look
now.
at that.
That is, does that screw you? That's Lorelei by Styx.
What is he playing? I can't even hear it.
That's no Steve Alamo, you know.
What?
Nothing.
Oh.
It's all good. I don't make any money on YouTube anyway. It doesn't matter.
All right, Bouncer.
Hey,
I love
Dennis.
you. Talk to
Yeah.
you later.
This podcast go 3 or 4 hours if you don't hit the dump button.
Yeah, I
You
know.
better dump it.
All right, Bouncer, we gotta
Hey,
go.
I got to get ready for my
I love you.
Bye, Bouncer.
Bouncer.
Yeah.
call in.
Carlene says hi.
Call in and do the
Bye.
fishing report tomorrow. I'll see you later.
All right, we'll see you later,
Give me
Bouncer.
a call in the morning, Paul. I'll tell you what we caught today.
Tight lines.
All right, love you.
You too, man.
Love
Bye.
you guys too. Take care.
Well, you should wrap on that. You can't top. There's nothing else we could do in the next few minutes.
I
that will
tell you,
top-
it hurts my arm and my neck the whole day.
But it's
Yeah.
worth it.
We're good. Yeah, it's worth it. 100%.
That
worth
was
it.
fun. That was a nice surprise. Yeah, we got Dolphin football tonight. I got a show tomorrow. I've had a nice big glass of the Papa's Pilar Legacy
Yes.
blend. I got to hang with 2 of my favorite people on earth. You guys too. And but is there anything else that we can cover? We've established that I'm more Italian than George.
Go,
We've
hands
established
down.
that, which was the point of the show, right? So we got.
I was just a journeyman in there for the fight. Let him win it.
So listen. I just want to wrap up one thing here. We need to announce our do-gooder, okay, of the week. So if you haven't been
Is this
here,
something new?
it's
Yeah.
something new
Yeah.
Oh,
that
I
we're
know
doing
about
with our good friends at Starbright.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
So every week
Yeah.
we have been announcing the Starbright do-gooder of the week. Okay, and this is we were working with Corey and Derek Redwine up there in the IRL, and Corey, as we've announced on this show many times, she's just great. She does so many things with planting mangroves up there and doing the coastal restoration. She's working at the University of Florida. She is the community coastal or the community outreach director for Starbright. And we've come up with this plan where we're doing the do-gooder of the week on the podcast. And what the do-gooder of the week on the podcast is we need to highlight people that are just, whether it's a beach cleanup or just someone who's consistently cleaning up the water or preserving our coastal waterways or organizing people to do good and do-gooder, right? Hashtag do-gooder. And it was kind of like a play on words where she spoke out of turn. She says, oh, yeah, you need to do-gooder. And then we just kind of rolled with that. But it's like, well, no, it actually means
Yeah, that's
you're a
good.
do-gooder,
Yeah, that
right?
does
So
well
that's how we
with
get it.
Nice.
It's a hashtag do-gooder. I want to say before we announce this week's do-gooder, if you do have a do-gooder and you want to announce who that do-gooder is or nominate who that do-gooder is, then just go at connectedbywater.com or at connectedbywater, at Dennis Friel, or at C Redwine, which is Corey's Instagram, SEA Redwine, or at starbright_com. You can message any one of those Instagrams. It doesn't have to be all of them, just one of them. We just want you to nominate a do-gooder and we'll announce them on the show.
Mhm.
If they win, right, then they will get this bucket of goodies, which is like $200 worth of stuff, right? We got the citrus cleaner, the degreaser, the salt off, right? And,
Startron,
Startron,
all the stuff I use
all the
religiously
stuff.
on my boat.
All of it's environmentally
I've been waiting
friendly.
25 years
right?
to have a Starbright
Right.
sponsorship on my show. I love those guys.
Right.
They're great.
Fantastic. So this week's do-gooder of the week is David Erickson and his son Mason. Right? He travels with his son every week on the do BMX races and also local businesses. He's a local business owner of an upscale seawall and dock building business. Corey was with Mason when he caught his first tarpon, and Derek teaches Mason about our environment and what it will take to keep it as it is and what it will take to make it better. So they are the
Formidable.
do-gooders of the week. So I
Very
just wanted to get that in,
congratulations.
right?
Very good.
So we have announced the do-gooder of the week, and again, please send us in your do-gooders because that's like $200 worth of stuff in that bucket. So we're very proud of you.
Quality
Very proud of
products.
you, Devin. All right. You ready for the church
The
announcements?
service.
You
The
want
service.
the church announcements, right?
I forgot about this. Okay. Yeah.
And Holy Communion will be served shortly right after.
We brought in the W sauce recently
What
as
is
our
this?
official Worcestershire.
Oh, okay.
Right. This is my buddy Brad. He was with Bear Holman, and they partnered up. Bear and Burton's W sauce, and we want to just kind of give them a shout out. 'cause this
what
really great
exactly
stuff.
is
Yeah,
that?
it looks like
Yeah, what
barbecue
is that?
sauce.
So that's what
Something.
I said. That's what I said to him. I said, it's a barbecue sauce? And he's like, no. He's like, it's not barbecue sauce. I'm like, what is it? Right? And for lack of a better term, he basically straight up told me, he goes, well, it's just magic effing cooking sauce.
It's America's Worcestershire.
Yeah.
Is
Right,
what
and
it
they
says.
have
All right.
It's a
Fireshire
100-year-old
and-
family recipe that these two fishermen from I believe the Keys came
Oh.
up with it during the pandemic.
Do you
in
put it on?
2020.
You put it on meat?
Yes.
You can put it on
Oh,
anything. They've got
100%.
a fire.
I'm a fan.
They have
Okay.
a vegan shire, they have a Fireshire, and
Fireshire.
the American
Where can we get this lovely product?
Vegan Shire.
They're in 635 locations across
Worcestershire.
the
Nice.
United States
Okay,
right
good.
now.
They're killing it.
They're killing it, absolutely 100% killing it, and they're growing leaps and bounds by
Oh,
the
I'm
day.
so happy for 'em.
Yeah,
Wow.
so just W sauce, right? So
Guests
just
of the
remember that.
Dennis Friel podcast get a bottle of W sauce, America's Worcestershire.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I had
And to
cheese
wash
steaks
it all
at
down,
home.
don't
Yeah.
forget the Papa's
No,
Pilar.
no. And there's my Joey
Marinated in
Accardi.
Worcestershire
Yep.
now.
Yeah. So, head on over to connectedbywater.com. Please support this hurricane initiative that we're doing. Please, I cannot tell you enough. We're not making any money off this. We are giving all the money away. All right, I promise you that. Okay.
No, I 100% believe that's why
proofs
I
in the
pushed it
pudding that what
because-
we did for the Bahamas campaign. We're trying to do the same thing and trying to replicate that again here. You ask us why we do it. It's just who we are. Okay, that's all I gotta say. It's really just who we are. It's how we were raised. It's the Connected by Water philosophy. We're all about community. I know we're an art studio, but if we can bring together community and cross all boundaries, we try to cross all political boundaries and all social boundaries here on the show, and just bring everyone together by being connected by water. And that's really what we feel, that water is the strongest substance on the earth, and then that's what's going to bind us all at the end of the day, right? And that's why. Okay, so I just wanted to
You're a
say my
beautiful
piece.
man.
Yep, all
Yeah,
good.
Just wanted to say my piece. All right, so if you're in the market for a new truck or vehicle, okay, if you want a Jeep family vehicle, we have the new Wagoneer on the lot right now for Joey Accardi, and it is gorgeous. Joey, actually, I'm not going to spill the beans. He just bought a new boat.
Oh, what's he got?
I'll tell you.
Oh, those are the beans.
Those
are the beans. Yeah.
I'll tell you offline. But he pulled up here. We're going to be doing his new apparel rollout and doing all the shirts for the boat. And he just pulled up in the brand new Wagoneer. I got to check it out in person, and that thing is absolutely flipping gorgeous, right? And I do want to say that our lease is up on the Rebel, and I love that thing so much that I'm buying it out because I don't want it to go away. I am keeping that thing.
The release on the what?
My 2019
Oh,
Rebel.
okay,
that we have
okay,
the
your
lease is
car,
up, and
okay.
I'm buying that
I
thing
thought
out,
you
so-
were scaring me. I thought you were gonna. The lease was up in a shop.
No.
All right.
No. On my 2019 Ram Rebel, and I just love that truck so much. I don't ever want it to go away. So, So go ahead, call Dean, and go see what they got for you on the lot, right? I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Papa's Pilar Rum.
No doubt.
Remind you never
Well,
to be a
cheers on
spectator,
that one, too.
right?
Oh,
And
gentlemen.
Papa would be proud, definitely, of everything we discussed today, especially the fact that Bouncer came on to hang out with us
He'd
for a
either
little
be
bit.
proud or embarrassed, one of the two.
Yeah. I don't think he'd be embarrassed.
Mm-mm.
I don't think he'd be embarrassed.
I love the fact that Bouncer has, he retires from his charter world, but fishes probably more today than
Of
than he
course.
ever did. Yeah.
Without the pressure of having people show up and having to
I
produce
hope
fish.
my retirement is as much fun as his. And people always ask me, "When are you going to retire?" I'm like, "What would I do?"
It's like me. People say, why don't you retire? And I said, because if I retire, I'm going to do the same exact thing to the T that I'm doing now.
and not get paid for it.
Right. The only difference is I would have to pay for it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
believe me.
I'm enjoying it
100%.
doing. I'm hanging there, you know.
Yeah, I think for me, I would do the exact same thing, but I would just have to be beholding to less.
Just
where
do
is it? Where is it?
Dennis Friel unplugged,
Art.
solo
That's
act.
art. I'm going to be painting till the day I die. That's for sure.
Good.
Bouncer, actually, the odd thing about Bouncer when he came on the show, he came on the show when we all had the Papa's party. Then he came back to do a solo, and he tells me like towards the end of that show, you realize he came in on his 74th birthday.
It's hard to believe that he
That
was
was his
that old.
birthday.
On his birthday.
Oh, wow.
That was the day. I was blown away by that. And he goes, well, yeah. He goes, this is the way I wanted to spend it. And I almost cried when he said that.
That's
That
so
was great,
nice.
wasn't it?
Yep.
If you are hungry, I want you to head over to Papa's Raw Bar. All right, Paul, you got something on the menu.
I
there.
do. Yeah, the Poke Bowl, the Castronovo Bowl. It's it really Paulie's
That's
Poke.
good.
It is it's an honor. Troy and the boys over there. It's good people, and I'm a regular. And whenever someone comes to town, I go, we want good seafood. I go right to Papa's Raw Bar
100%.
in Lighthouse Point, right on Federal Highway.
Best
Seafood
in town.
World. I mean, I buy my fish there. I get their smoked wahoo dip is second to none. And every time I sit at the bar, they have a Papa's Pilar right there at Papa's Raw Bar. Makes sense.
Yep, and if you'll notice that the entire sushi menu is the Connected by Water sushi menu. So
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's right.
If you order anything on there,
Yep.
we'll definitely be proud of you there. We mentioned the W sauce, and I think we're good, right? Yanni, appreciate you coming in. I know you had a lot going
I
on.
appreciate that. He
And-
called you at last minute
Yeah.
to get you earlier, right?
Okay. I know. Shout out to Nick here. Nick wasn't here with us today. He had to run over to help his family out over on the Gulf Coast. Carlene,
Thank you, Carlene. Always
always a
good.
pleasure.
Appreciate
Of course,
it.
gentlemen.
Nobody
Anytime.
pours Papa's better than you.
Right,
Thank you.
that is the truth.
Always a
Right.
good time.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Until the next time.
Your ego is not your amigo. Always do your best, and at the end of the day, just let God do the rest, and do not ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're all connected,
Connected by water.
Cool,
Cheers.
man. Thank you.
All right.